Well, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
So let's begin our journey before we get into your work and your book by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing all of our lives and worlds. How did you get through that era, and how has it influenced the way that you do things now?
It's interesting. Okay, so first of all, I am an introvert. And so I was one of those people who's like, stay at home, I'm good.
Yeah.
By day, I'm a bookkeeper. I have my own business. My office is here at home. So I did not feel it in the sense personally that it changed how I worked. I did feel it very strongly for my clients. There were businesses, nonprofits, different things. Some of them almost had to shut down. Some of them were able to keep on going, and some of them weren't affected. It just was a very interesting mix. Um, so yeah, I felt like in that sense I was okay. I do play piano for church and was playing piano weekly at that point in time. That was an interesting journey from that aspect
Yeah.
because we started moving into the online um, um, video. And we had a skeleton crew there each week doing this for a while until people started being ready to come back. So that was very interesting. I had COVID twice in the past however many years, and I got both of them from church.
Wow. Wow.
But that's probably just simply due to the fact that I work from home. I'm not surrounded by tons of people all the time like so many are.
It's a mystery, I think, how we all got it because all of us have different levels of susceptibility. Nothing has been concrete about this. It's
No,
like
no.
my son and I got it, and we spent most of our time downstairs, and the rest of the family upstairs didn't get it. And it was like,
Okay.
and then people would get booster shots and still continue to get it. And it was
Yeah.
like there was no rhyme or reason to any of it.
Yeah, it's impossible to know for sure things because we can't go live in a parallel universe and see how things would be if we did this one little thing different. That always fascinates me to think about that kind of a thing, but we can't do it, and so we just have to move forward with what
Yep.
we've got.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So, as an author, as a community volunteer of all these things that you do, I want to get a handle on it. And I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of kids. It's career day. They're 12 years old, and one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you
Okay.
answer that child?
Okay. So I am an entrepreneur. That means that I have a business of my own that I've built from the ground up. I love being my own boss. And I just encourage anybody who's interested in that kind of a thing to explore it, find a way to do it. I've built this business. I do bookkeeping and I work on the computer from home. I also play piano. That's kind of a part-time job that I have in addition. And yeah, I've all my life I've had some aspect of it where I have been my own boss and have done the things that I want to do, whether it's teaching piano, tutoring kids, did some substitute teaching at my own schedule, different things like that. I just think it's a great way. In this country, we have that opportunity to make our own way, and I love it.
So, speaking of your own way, when you were that young, when you were 12, what was your dream job? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I think I was going to be a teacher, and I did
Okay.
actually go to college and got my teaching certificate and substitute taught for a semester, did some tutoring, group tutoring through some grant programs, individual tutoring. And then my husband had a son from a previous marriage who came to live with us as a little boy, and suddenly I became a mom and needed to help take care of him, so I started teaching piano. And so then when we had children of our own, I homeschooled them. And so I used that love of teaching in a variety of interesting and kind of different ways, not that traditional path of going to public school teaching. But last night, we were at our women's Bible study group, and one of the ladies said, you're just a natural teacher. And I'm like, thank you. It is who I am at heart. And I do that in my business too. I'm always training my subcontractors, and I'm helping my clients learn things that they need to know. And it's just very enjoyable aspect of the work for me.
So take me back to your beginnings. Where were you born and raised, and what were these seeds of being an entrepreneur, of doing your own thing, and even teaching? What were these foundational elements that were woven into who you've become?
So I grew up on a small farm outside of Marion, Kansas, a tiny little town. I graduated with 48 in my class, so a small town, but I loved growing up out there. And in fact, my husband and I are now on a small homestead here in Ohio. I love being back out in the country, and it probably fits with that whole personality thing, being, kind of an introvert, things like that. But we just love that lifestyle. And I think when I was growing up, I was pretty independent. You don't have neighbors right next door that you go play with. You didn't have texting, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have all those things, and so you made your own fun out there, in the great outdoors. And I always like to write, and I always like to think, and I always like to, plan things and think about how things would be if we tried to do something a certain way. And so I think I was always just very independent. And I never had the I never said to myself, I'm gonna have my own business when I grow up, but it was just a very natural outflow of who I am as a person.
So, being an author, what was the book growing up? What was the gateway for you to either write or to love reading?
Wow. Um, Books were friends. Maybe, just like when there was nothing else there, you had books always. And as far as writing, I journaled when I was a kid, and all through school, writing for school stories, stuff like that. Um, but it wasn't until 4 years ago that I actually finally started writing a novel. I've done a lot of business writing. I've done a lot of, things for nonprofits and for my business and stuff like that, short stories, little things like that. But I never could get myself to that point of doing the full-length novel until about 4 years ago. I don't know why. It's just I think there was a lot of things that paths that I took and learning that I did and growing up that I did, and becoming maybe a little wiser or something like that. But it has always been part of who I am, and it finally just all came together for me in the last few years.
So, who's been your inspiration in your life? Who's been that kind of heroic force that's allowed you to become who you are today?
Well, I am a Christian, and I think that that's very important to me. Growing up, my family did not attend church as a family, but being out in the country, we had a little country church just down the road, and I would go. As a kid, I would get up and go to church with these older people, little tiny church, and my youth group and my Sunday school teacher. Those people were huge in my life, teaching me about, salvation and what it means to live a life of faith. And then I went to a Christian college, and man, I learned so much there. And so it's people like that who have fed into my life and helped me to become who I am.
So, if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, have a lunch, spend some time, ask some questions, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Somebody alive on the planet right now?
Yeah, or you could do ghosts. You can do one of the two. Yeah,
Well, it's always been authors. It's always been authors. Laura Ingalls Wilder was one because she
yeah.
was just, the books as a little girl, and Louisa May Alcott, the books she wrote, I've always wanted to meet authors. As far as modern day authors, I'd like to meet Lynn Austin. She's a Christian writer. J.K. Rowling, I'd love to sit down and talk with her.
Yeah.
That's always where my head goes, is to the people that are writing amazing stories.
So, as an entrepreneur, you're always on. I mean, entrepreneurship means that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there's always something that you have to respond to. So, when that alarm clock goes off in the morning, what gets your feet on the ground? What allows you to maintain an energy to do your work at a high level, take care of your soul and your family? What is that energy for you every day?
So I don't let it rule my life.
Yeah.
honestly. I take the time away. I work 9 to 5 and I shut it down on the weekends and I do not work. I mean, there are times when you have to put in a little something, but and I've heard so many people say, "Oh, I couldn't work from home. It would always be on my mind, or I would like never do anything. I'd want to go watch soaps all day." And I'm like, man, not me. I love working from home. And so I think I do get that energy from I can get out of bed. If I want to go work for a little bit, I can work. I can go out to the barn and take care of animals. I can do something around the house. I can come back and work. It's all right there. I don't have to get to something. I don't have to go somewhere to do something. And it's honestly very motivating to me to have it all right there. And it's efficient.
Yeah.
It's efficient, I love it.
So if you had a dream and ran into that 12-year-old version of you in Kansas on the farm, and you had like a book in your hands, and it was kind of a big coffee table book, and it was the life that you have, the way it's turned out, and you handed it to that young version, would that young version of you believe it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Something when you go to college and you're getting ready to do interviews, they say you need to be ready to answer that 5 year, that 10-year question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I was like, oh, I just hate that question because honestly, I just never really could see it. I didn't know. I've been blessed to have a good husband. We've been married for 37 years. And it's not something that a lot of people choose, to stay with one person their whole lives. It's not easy. It's a lot of work, and it's not always fun and games, but we made a commitment to it, and it's good because then you start getting that history together, and there's joy and beauty in that, and so I think if anything, seeing that part of my life, the continuity of faith and the relationship with my husband, building a family, those would be things that I would, as 12-year-old, say, oh, I'm so glad that's part of my life because those things were important to me then.
So as an entrepreneur, failure is a part of it. You get back up, you keep going, but
Yeah,
there's also risk involved with that journey. What's the
yeah.
biggest risk that you've taken professionally over your life as an entrepreneur?
Okay, so I homeschooled my kids, right? And when I got done with that, I was like, ready for my second career. What's that going to be? I always thought I'd be writing. Well, you can't just start writing and make a living at it. It just doesn't work that way if you're, writing fiction. But I also had always been doing some bookkeeping for our various businesses, keeping track of financial things like a lot of people do. Excuse me. And I enjoyed that. And I thought, I like doing this. This could be something that could, contribute to the family income. So I started the business, excuse me,
No, you're fine.
and it started to grow a little bit. And I was like, this is cool. This is really cool. Well, then my husband, who was in his second career, he's a geographer and he worked in that industry for a long time. And then he was ready for change and he went to work with his hands, started doing home improvement. Well, as he started to get a little bit older, he's like, I just can't do this anymore. I really need to shut this business down and do something different. And so just about the time my business was growing, he was shutting down his business, and we decided to make that leap that my business was going to be the main thing in our family. That was scary,
Yeah,
taking on the responsibility for providing for our family financially with a business that you can't always control things,
yeah,
how
yeah,
things go in your business.
for sure. So as a musician, as a pianist, what was an early influence on you? Who was a favorite musician, or what was a first concert that kind of influenced you and made you want to keep going?
That's so interesting. So I started when I was 6 years old, and I was such a shy little thing, and so piano was a very good choice because it's a very individual pursuit, a lot of people struggle with that because you spend that time at that keyboard. And the first concerts would have been the little recitals in my piano teacher's home. But by sixth grade, 5 years later, I was doing my first accompanying. I accompanied a friend that was a year younger who needed to do a solo for a band. That's how they did it.
Yeah,
And I loved it even then. And so a couple years later in eighth grade, I got my chance to accompany our school choir on a song or two and loved it. And then when I went into high school as a freshman, it was off and running. And I love to accompany. I love to accompany choir. I love to play for church. Those are my favorite things. I'm not a classical pianist at all,
Yeah.
not at all. But that was a love that was just absolutely real and continues to this day for me.
So, of everything that you've done and accomplished in your life and become, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
I have never been good with superlatives. Um, yeah, honestly, a life well lived is important to me. Seeing, seeing faith through to the end of my life till that very last breath, that's the most important thing to me because I believe in eternity, both in heaven and hell. Um, I'm so excited to have written these books. It took me 3 years to write the first one, and then I did the second one in a year. That was a goal. About killed myself
Yeah,
because that was a lot to do. I want to do a third one, and I would just like to see this body of work be out there in the world and be useful and helpful to somebody with the messages that are in the books and the stories. I'm getting good feedback. People are like, these are great stories. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I want to keep doing that.
that's it. Yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, everyone that gets your books, everyone you work with and know that you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I am a person who problem solves. That's what I do. I solve problems. I come up with solutions. And that's appreciated a lot and sometimes not appreciated, just depending on where people are with what they need. But I find it very satisfying to create solutions and figure out how to do something that otherwise people weren't figuring out how to do.
So if anybody wants to pick up your books, I imagine they could scan the QR code. If they want to pick up, not what they expected or any of your other books, where's the best place for them to go?
So if you're an Amazon person, you can go to Amazon and look me up, and you can see the spelling of my name, I think, on my user right there. If you don't like Amazon, that's okay. There's a place called bookshop.org, and you can look me up there as well. I've got my books listed there as well. It's interesting as a self-published person. When you publish through this place called Ingram Spark, it goes into all the big catalogs. So if you went on Walmart, you would find my books. If you went on Barnes and Noble, you would find my books. So it's kind of nice the way that works. But those are the two that I promote, Amazon and bookshop.org. And the reason I promote bookshop.org is because it supports independent booksellers everywhere by allowing them a space to sell and gives them a portion of the profits. It's really cool.
That's huge, absolutely huge.
Yes.
So great to meet you. I'll have all these links in the show notes. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your time. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your
Cool.
time.
Yes, thank you.